That's good. Well, I tell you, after everything you all had shared, first of all, I wish there was tissues on my desk because brought tears to my eyes. So I've been wiping them on my sleeve. It's been really, really good, and I don't think I have anything to add that would be any more remarkable than what you've already shared. Um, but interesting things have happened, and I think God is speaking to us. I'm so glad that we have ears to listen to Him during these times because we have a lot to learn, and we tend to learn things more when we're paying attention, and we pay attention a lot more during difficult times. Unlike the weather, things are heating up, and Linda and I took a little trip this week to Amsterdam Thursday. We went up to Amsterdam. It's about 30 miles west of Albany, a very rural county, Montgomery County. And while we were there and waiting for somebody, there was a gal there, and I said to her, out of curiosity, so how many people here in the county are sick with COVID-19? And she said to me, 30. And she didn't even hesitate. It sounded like she knew what it was. I don't know. I didn't look it up to see if it was right, but she said 30, and I went, oh, really? And she said, yeah, and 25, or I think she said 26 of those are in nursing homes. So I said, so there's literally only 4 people that are not in a nursing home in this entire county that have been tested positive for COVID-19. She said, yes. In the meantime, this place that we were at is a place that employs 220 people. Over 200 of them have been laid off. Everybody there was doing exactly what they should be doing, wearing masks and doing everything. But you could see the tension in people's attitudes and their faces and so forth because they are suffering so much material wise by losing their jobs and not having incomes and so forth, all of which they thought was going to be fine for a couple of weeks. But now they see no end in sight. And all because they have about 5 people in their whole county that have come in contact with it. So I felt very sorry for them. And during these times, it's always good to look at things that are, that are really good things to look at. And that's really good. People are focusing on the brave that are taking their chances to be on the front lines while this is going on. I've read about nurses that have actually come down with the virus and been sick for a couple of weeks and then go back to work to continue to help out. And the guys that came out of a factory, they slept and lived inside their factory for 28 days making masks, not going outside the factory to make sure that we had enough, and hardworking guys. And then even little soldiers that are definitely examples. I'm going to have to name my wife as one of them. She's probably the most enduring person that I have ever met. She's the best mother that I have ever seen in this world, and she has to put up with me every day. And now it's not, here and there. Now it's 24/7, and she's it's incredible. And so, it's really good to look at positive things like that and examples in our lives and things. It's also not a bad idea to look at some of the weaknesses that we have, because in the weaknesses that show up, we can learn how to, as Joe said it, fix things if we can. And we might not be able to fix the world around us, but we can fix ourselves. And that's really, really important at this time. We're aware of so many other things in our society around us that are not good. We have no control over. We don't have any control over, pastors being arrested for having a parking lot Zoom meeting, which is ridiculous, or the people in their cars had their windows closed for crying out loud. And then you have, all the depression that's going up. I was reading about the New York City, people that live in New York City apartments that are about the size of 2 or 3 bedrooms altogether, and they can't get out of their apartment for this entire time. And depression is going way up, and suicide rates are going up, and substance abuse is going way up. Alcohol sales are up 50%. So there's a business that's not hurting really bad right now. Relationships are way down. People are really struggling with relationships, and I look at things like that and I go, like, what does all does that mean to us, to believers, because even among believers, these numbers aren't good. There's showing weaknesses that we have, and I mean, like it's the circumstances. I mean, the circumstances are bad, but it could be a lot worse. There's people in Nigeria right now that are being hunted down by evil people and Christians, and they're being killed, and their houses are being burned, and just could be a lot worse. But we are suffering, and we have to learn in all of this. And so what I look at it is like, why aren't we ready or able to handle this better by now? And as I was thinking about this week, and yes, I know the Bible should be the first thing that comes to your mind, but what happened, I was listening to the radio and Paul Simon started singing about slip sliding away. And every verse about that is about another situation where people are just going about their life and they're slowly letting things slip slide away. They're letting relationships erode. They're not working on anything to become any stronger or any more prepared for things that could happen. And that has a lot to do with our lives, that when things are going well, we just tend to like slip slide away and not really focus in on what's important for these times. So I'm not going to spend, the whole time. I'm not going to take up a lot of your time today, but when we're in a war, we're in a battle like we're in now, there's really two things that are really, really important. And I'm only going to do the first one today, but there's two things that are really important. And the first one is training and commitment to that training. In James chapter 1, where he says to consider it all joy when you encounter various trials. We think of trials like person not driving well in front of us, or we think of all these little things in our normal lives. But now we're starting to realize trials might be a lot bigger than that. They might be a lot more difficult for us to manage. And training and getting ready for those trials is really, really important. There was a TV show that I watched recently. I don't remember the name of it, but anyway, there was a young actress on that show who was about 14 or 15 years old, and she was trying to learn from a relative of hers on the show. And he was a con man, and he knew how to handle cards and coins, really good with his fingers. And all he did was teach her how to take a quarter. And all he did was teach her how to take a quarter and roll it across his fingers without any help from one finger to another, which I can't do, and I've been working on it. And I saw her just go flip that quarter over from one finger to the next, one finger to the next, get it over here, goes all the way back over to her finger again, and just keep doing it. And I thought, as an actress, they didn't interview zillion actresses to find somebody that could do that. They hired this actress, and she worked on it until she could do that in front of a camera without a problem. How many hours did that take? Because I've worked on it for about an hour, and I can't even do it. So it's amazing the training that went into that. And then all of a sudden I see this woman on her stomach with her feet up in the air, balancing 4 tennis balls, one on each foot, one in each hand, and one on her head, and then flipping them from one to another. I'm like, who has the time to do that? Like, that's ridiculous. This person must work on it 8 hours a day for years to do that. But what the thing really shows us is that if you put time and effort into something, you will have the ability when the time comes to be able to endure through it. And here's what I'm gonna leave you with is that a light, Jesus called us to be a light to those around us. And lights don't shine without energy behind them. And we need that energy, and that energy comes from God. But here's the thing, is that God wants us to take that energy and to store it for the times that we need it. And so it's like a battery. We need God's power to be within us, even when we don't need it, when we don't need the patience, when we don't need to endure. He wants us to store that energy up so that in hard times we will have it. It's a battery of his spirit that we store. I've been working on a battery of fat on the front of my abdomen for a while, so that if I go without food, I'll be okay for a couple of months. But that's what it is in the spirit, to be able to go to God every day and ask for his power and for his energy and for his endurance. and to be able to do that and not to walk away from things. And so that's what I'm going to like leave you with this week is like, Linda and I have been married for 46 years. And yet, after all the time, you would think, well, anybody that's been married 46 years, you obviously have all of the answers. You know exactly what to do in any particular situation. And yet, I don't. Sometimes things happen and I don't know how to respond to it. And what I'd like to do oftentimes is just simply walk away or get in my truck and go down to the river and look at the water for a while. Anything but deal with the situation. But that's not storing energy. That's not learning. That's not training. That's not being committed. So I stop myself in my tracks and I look at her and I say, I need to figure out how to work this out. What am I doing wrong? What are we doing wrong? What can we do to get better at this? And we sit down and we work it out. And I'm sorry, I got a couple little tears wanting to well up in my eyes too. We work it out. We stop arguing, we stop yelling, we stop all the stuff that immediately is natural to come to us that would only slide us away. And we work on the thing that God wants us to do. We work on how to be nice to each other. We work on having more patience. We work on what is it you want out of this situation. And it's remarkable how much better our relationship has come through this circumstance. It hasn't gotten worse, it's gotten better. And it's remarkable. And I'm learning so much. And normally I learn from all the mistakes I make. And right now it's just amazing. I'm so blessed that I'm learning through things that I can't control, which is such a good sharing all of you did today. Things I can't control. I'm learning how to control the thing that God wants me to control, which is me. And it's really a blessing. And I want to be that light for others. So I'll do number 2 next week. So that's all I have for today.